Okay, here we go. I think we've waited. So again, welcome everybody who's in the call. The next hour, I will try to give you an update on Snowflake, what it is, how you can use it, etc. But just from a user perspective, I'm not a technical guy. I use Snowflake now for a couple of years, and I'm really enthusiastic about it. And I will try to share that with you to give you maybe a solution for a problem you didn't even know you had. My name is Lex Pierik. I work for Biztory, and I am an analytical consultant. So what are we going to do this hour? What to expect? First thing, I would like to share with you guys why I love Snowflake, what it does for me, what it meant for me, and how I use it in my now day-to-day work. Don't expect anything really technical. I don't consider myself as a technical guy. I know a bit about a lot of stuff, but nothing like in depth. And I know the Snowflake is you can go really technical with that. We also have consultants that can help you with it, but that's not me. And finally, a short introduction of Snowflake and why I think it's awesome and I really use it all the time. So how it's going to work is, as you've noticed, probably you're all muted. You cannot unmute yourself. But I also would like, of course, to give you the possibilities to ask questions. Therefore, you can use the questions pane in the GoToWebinar control panel. I hope everybody sees it. Ask your question. I have it open. If I can answer it immediately, I will. If not, I will follow up on it. But please be sure to leave your question if you have one. If you want to say something, I think I'm allowed to unmute you. You can use the raise hand functionality. Just raise your hand. I will unmute you, and then you can talk. Again, we only have an hour. I would like to share as much as I know about Snowflake and how I use it with you as possible. So I suggest we just dive in immediately and talk about the definition of Snowflake. What is Snowflake? So when you Google it, Snowflake, this is one of the definitions you get. Somebody who is self-obsessed and fragile, easily offended, or unable to deal with opposing opinions. Yes, Snowflake is now also a typical name for a really self-obsessed person that sees itself as a snowflake, like a really unique person. But when I found this, I kind of thought, I don't think this has something to do with Snowflake I want to talk about. So I searched further and I found this definition. Snowflake is an analytical data warehouse provided as a software as a service. Yeah, that's something I still can think on. Yeah, I know what it does, I think. So also Snowflake provides a data warehouse that is faster, easier to use, and far more flexible than traditional data warehouse offerings. Sure, really nice. My definition of Snowflake when I started working with it was this: cool, I can now store and access data easy and fast. Because that's what I was expecting as an end user. Just go to a data store, data warehouse, get data in there, take data out of there. And I've in the past used a lot of things. I'm not a big data guy or have a lot of data, but I do want to give some demos, for example, with Tableau, a tool I use all the time. So I started with MySQL, but it's pretty hard and technical to install MySQL. So I found a way to do it easily. But then you also get PHP and PHP-admin, and before I knew it, it was already, again, a bit technical. Then I got a license for SQL Server, like to use it at home. I installed it on my laptop. It worked. It was not really easy. It was a bit technical. Sometimes it stopped working. I had to reboot everything, but I got it to work again. And then I switched from a Microsoft Windows PC to a Mac. And then, of course, SQL Server doesn't work anymore. I had to go back to MySQL and had to start services. And it was all, like, for me, it was all pretty difficult. I knew how to work with it, but it took a lot of time and effort to just store data and just to access data. So I decided to just go with Snowflake. The reason I knew about Snowflake was because of a client I'm working with currently. So there's a sports brand I've been working for a couple of years right now. At first, when I started working there, they used a new tool I'd never seen before. It was called Tableau. And once I started using it, it was amazing how fast I could get into the insights and how fast I could get like the things I needed to know from the data. And I really fell in love with the tool. And then I left that company and did a lot of other stuff, and still in love with Tableau, still using Tableau on my day-to-day access, and started working for Biztory and started to learn way more about Tableau. And then I got an assignment back with the same company. And guess what? They were still using Tableau. But now also they had Snowflake. And again, what happened like years ago with Tableau, it happened again with Snowflake. It was just so easy to use. I didn't have to put any effort on just getting data in there, getting data out there. So it really enabled me to use data easier and faster. And that's what I like to go for. And when you look at the architecture, then you get like images like this. And of course, I don't know your background on how technical you are. Probably you're able to read this because it's pretty simplified layer. But to me already, this is technical. I don't like this. Doesn't sell it for me. So I just started using it. And once I've started using it, I understood it better. And I think if you have like limited information about Snowflake, you can just start with it and just store data and retrieve data and be amazed by all the possibilities that Snowflake brings you. So that brings me to the last sheet of the presentation already. Can't wait anymore. Show me Snowflake. Again, if there are any questions, just let me know in the Q&A and I will try to answer them. Moving on to Snowflake. First, I would like to show you the interface that Snowflake is providing for us. So that's the first start. Let's see what Snowflake looks like. I have a shortcut, and it brings me to the login screen. Maybe it's relevant to know already there are multiple ways to log on. With the Biztory version of Snowflake, this is my own version because I like it so much, I'm also paying them. With this version, the Biztory version, I can log on automatically. A lot of single sign-on things, so you don't even have to worry if you work with multiple people how to log on. But if it's not like single sign-on, SSO, Okta, whatever you use, all technical stuff, you can just type in the name, put in the password, and log on. And it immediately brings you to the query part of the Snowflake environment. So quickly go through this. I will not start with the worksheets. I would actually start with the databases. So this is the first image on the top screen. And you see databases, because if you already use Snowflake, there's no limit to the amount of databases you have. For example, you have if you have the free version of SQL Server, it's like 10 gigabytes. And believe me, if you start working with data, 10 gigabytes is nothing. So if you want to check the databases, this is all the databases I have with the owner creation time. To be frank with you, I never go back to databases anymore. They're just there. If I need to create one, I can do it from the worksheet, etc. But you can do it from this page. So if you want to create a new database, click Create, give it for example, Skill Up. Let's call it Skill Up. Let's use an underscore to make it more technical. Press Finish. And there we have it, a new database. I can grant privileges. I can have users who can also view the database. But again, I'm using Tableau also for myself. And this is it. Now we have a new database. I haven't had to do anything technical. It was pretty easy to just create a new database. So moving from the databases, you also have shares. And shares is something unique within Snowflake, because I can easily create a data sharing. So for example, you have a Snowflake database, but there's an issue with the data. And you have a consultant that you hire sometimes that needs to have a look at the data. So what normally happens, again, it's COVID. So I will ask you, so can you maybe make an extract of the data and send it to me? Maybe you can dump it in Excel and, oh, it's more than 1 million rows. Okay, that's not going to work. With Snowflake data sharing, you can just add me as a user temporarily to your data. We can agree on an NDA, and I can just browse through your data, see what's wrong, maybe even fix it, and come up with a solution. And then you take the share away, and I don't have access anymore. So it's really easy to like get your data somewhere else, because everything is in the cloud. I haven't mentioned it. It was on the architectural picture. It's a cloud data warehouse, so I can easily share my data with other people. If we want to take it one step further, and I'm just explaining what's on the interface right now, you have a data marketplace. This is also, I think, unique to Snowflake, because as you know, we collect data all over the world, like everybody's collecting data, maybe even enriching it with information and creating data sets that are really valuable. And of course, as a company or as a person, I would like to have access to those data sets, and I'm even willing to pay some money for it. So there's a data marketplace incorporated within Snowflake. I can just explore what's out there to buy from data. And of course, we all used to do it on the dark web, but now we can just easily do it within a tool. So we don't have to do anything illegal. We can just find data and buy it. From the other hand, from a company's perspective, maybe you collect data that is relevant and you anonymize it, but you're willing to share your data with more people. You can even sell it. You can make a business use case out of it to sell your own data, if that's applicable for you, of course. So this is just what I think are awesome within Snowflake, because I don't know of any other solution that makes it so easy to share your data or to even like sell your data and monetize the data that you have laying around in your company. Then moving on to warehouses. And this is where, as an end user, like to me, it became a bit tricky because I know about data warehouses and I thought, wow, so I have databases, but also already warehouses. Were they built, or what happened? Was there a Snowflake data model applied straight away, or was there a star schema? I had no clue. But actually none of that. This is not a data warehouse, it's a warehouse. So what you need to keep in mind, the database stores the data. So you are paying a really small amount for storage. The storage within Snowflake is not expensive. But then if you want to access the data, if you want to query the data, if you want to use the data for a certain workflow, then you need some computing power. And the cool thing is you can use computing power that's been facilitated by Snowflake. So I'm not depending on my own laptop anymore, but I can set up a warehouse, like I have two right now, an analytical warehouse and a compute warehouse, and I can size them. So meaning if I'm just doing my day-to-day job and I don't need a lot of power and it's just okay to wait like 2 minutes on a query, I can keep the size like really small. And actually the size, the t-shirt sizes reflect the credits that you pay. So an extra small warehouse, so the computing power of accessing your data, is 1 credit per hour, and you pay per second even. So it doesn't cost a lot. However, if I need more power, if I have a really powerful machine learning process running, I can put it to like really big. I can show you. I can change it. Let's click on the analytical warehouse, and this is what I did over time. You see, I don't use the warehouses a lot, and I can go to configure. And there you see all the credits. So t-shirt size, and even I can go to 128 credits per hour. If I then run large queries, it will make me bankrupt. Fortunately, I can set a limit. You can set a limit on the cost, and then just Snowflake tells you, well, like the 30 euros per month limit you've had in place, I've reached it. So then automatically it gets shut down, and you know that you never overspend when you set a limit. But meaning if I set it to 4 times large, it is really quick, and that's like awesome. And I will really quick. I will show you. Normally, to be honest, for demo purposing, etc., I always have extra small. But also I'm Dutch, so I don't like to pay more. There's also another suspend. So if you're not using it, it will automatically shut down again. Meaning that if it's running but not doing anything, you're also not paying anything. So maybe it makes sense to put it like to 1 hour. But meaning that every time you go to the warehouse again, it needs to spin up, and you need a little bit more time to put the warehouse like on. So that's the 5 minutes. Is maybe a bit low, but again, I'm Dutch. I'm too afraid to lose money. Auto resume means if I stop querying again, it automatically goes. So long story short, we need to have at least 1 warehouse to access the data. we need the computing power, which is also facilitated within Snowflake, to access the data. Again, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a show SQL. So everything you do has been converted to SQL, meaning that if I'm a technical guy and I need to do some maintenance on Snowflake, I can do everything from the worksheets. I don't have to go to this interface. I can do everything with SQL statements, which for me is not awesome, but I've understood from like DBAs, this is awesome. You can do you don't have to go through another like interface you don't know or whatever. It's everything can be done by SQL. I think this is it about warehouses. I will show you how you use those warehouses. So I need two things. I need a database with data in there, and I need a warehouse to access the data and to have the computing power to see the data. Then I move on to worksheets. And there it becomes a bit more like technical in a way that this is where you use SQL statements. And this is one I've used myself. It's not a big secret, but you see also the label is called 90-minute lab. I followed a 90-minute workshop with Snowflake. It's completely free of charge. They encourage you to create a trial for 2 weeks and just start playing around with it. And you can do the 90-minute lab. It's also available in Dutch, in English, even in Spanish, and go through everything and see, again, the power of Snowflake. I'm also trying to show it to you right now. If you see all the statements, I'm not sure if you guys know the SQL statements or even run SQL. I kind of assume that you do. Then you can start querying stuff and creating stuff. So there's a create table cribs. If I'm I forget one thing. That's most important. Normally, it's already okay. But I've explained to you about databases and the warehouses. But you also have a user, and you have different users. And that's maybe a bit more technical. Within Snowflake, you also have a role. The same as it within a lot of other like databases, but you can have a role. This is my person who's logged in. I am a sysadmin. But this, what you see right in the top right corner, is my context. Before you go querying on Snowflake, you need to check if the context is correct. So I can change it. And then you see my role, sysadmin. You see the warehouse. If I click on the drop down, you see all the warehouses that are there. So in this case, only 2, and they both exist. So you can like determine how fast you want this to run. You can check a database. In this case, it's weather, and a schema. And the schema is always like a sub part in your database where you connect all the tables to and all the views to, etc. So now you see it's been set to weather, but I can. There's a create table here, but the table trips is already available in CityBike, right? But the context is set to weather. So if I run it now with the context on weather, let me run it. There we go. Table trip successfully created, but not where I want it. I can refresh it right there. And there it is, trips. Oh no, this is wrong. I don't need it there. I need it in CityBike. Because of the context, I put it in the wrong database. If you have one database, that's not an issue, of course, but if you have multiple databases, multiple schemas, you really need to make sure that trips is there, or that the context is set correctly. So maybe this is also a good time to drop it. So I will drop this one, quickly put it there. Drop table trips. There we go. Successfully dropped. So if I run it again, it's gone again. And then, like the first feature that was amazing to me, this is the first database system I've used that has this feature. I think every one of you already seen memes about people dropping tables in production and busy the whole week or the whole weekend to put it back because it shouldn't have been dropped. Snowflake, it's in the cloud and it's been built up as a cloud service all along, has a feature that's called undrop. So if I run this statement, undrop table trips, successfully restored, and my table is back with all the data in there, if there was data in there. And that was the first thing I've used, because again, I'm not technical, so by accident sometimes you may drop a table, and you were screwed. But now it's like you have an undrop, so it's not an issue whatsoever. I will drop it again. There we go. Now it's gone from my weather database. I go back to my context. I change it to city bike. And then if I run it, I will get an error saying the object trips already exist. So I only change the context. I go again to the drop table trips, but now it's dropping the table in city bike. And now it's gone again. So you see, it's really easy without being really technical. Oh, undrop. I'm sorry, did I updrop? That's wrong. It's undrop. Here we go. And it's now successfully stored. So let me quickly check how much is in the trips database. So select count star from trips. Here we go. You see the answer already, I don't. Wow, there's over 61 million rows in there. And it told me with an XS data source in 303 milliseconds. So let's take it one step further. I think every one of you knows the select star from trips, right? That's giving you everything. There's a big, big warning I have to give you, what I found out the hard way with 61 million rows. If I run this, there's no limitation on what the Snowflake interface provides back as a context. So selecting this will give me back the 61 million rows. And believe me, that will take some time because, again, it's a database system, it's technology, it's not magic. I need to limit it, but I will limit it to, let's take 10,000 rows right now to see how fast it is on an XS. You see it running? Wow, 5 seconds, I have 10,000 rows with a lot of information there. I think that's awesome. Let's try to not do 10,000, but do 1 million. Let's see how fast that one is. Again, 1 million rows in 4.14 seconds. You also see it does some smart caching. This part is now cached, so it will be faster and faster and faster. But what if then, if I want to see, oh, the 61,000, I will take away the limit. I will change the size of the compute warehouse. I will put it on, let's do a large. Again, this is absolutely not the fastest already because we had a 4 XL instead of the large. So without a limit, let me try to just run it and see what happens. My warehouse now is faster, so this is a bit more expensive, but I think it's worth it because I just want to see the 61 million records that are available right here. There we go. Within 20 seconds, I have now visibility on 61 million rows. And again, oh, wait a minute, there's 1 million shown. Didn't expect that one. If you please can hold on, I will count them by hand to make sure it's only 1 million. No, I do think then there is a limit being put there. This was unexpected. I was expecting the 61 million rows, but also a user can be surprised. Let me try to go back to the GoToMeeting, not that one, but GoToWebinar. I lost you guys in the There we go. You're back. Okay, no additional questions, so we can continue. Okay. So as you can see, it is fast. Even a million rows within 20 seconds is still pretty fast, I would say. I'm going to put the warehouse back in size to extra small. There we go, and it's resized. You see, it's pretty easy. And just to make sure that you can do like all the things, you can set up ways to import CSV data, which is pretty awesome, because then you can just copy it into. So if I were to build the table trips, I will drop the trips table again, just to show you how it works. There we go. It's gone. Now it's empty. I will recreate it, position it one. Oh, I was selected. Sorry, my bad. There we go. So it's just I'm going. I'm not sure if it's clear when I do it, but I'm just putting my cursor within the statement. I press Command Enter or Control Enter on a Windows machine, and it runs just the statement that you're in. If you have a large script which does a lot of things, you can just run all queries. Another way I found out is just select the part. Well, let's do it with the drop. Select the part that you want, run it. There you go. It's dropped again. So it's really easy to use it and to run it. Now you can see I will do a select start from trips. It's empty, 0 rows. What I'm going to do now, the city by trips is on an S3 bucket. Don't know if any of you work with S3, but it's part of the Amazon offerings that you can put files on an S3 bucket which you can access. And because Snowflake is cloud agnostic, you can run it on AWS, you can run it on Azure, you can run it on Google Cloud. So it doesn't really matter which cloud provider you want to work with. Snowflake is like totally cloud independent. In this situation, I want to look at the S3 bucket. I think this one is still there. I'm going to check. Yeah, it's successfully created. So I have a stage area. Now I can list what's in that S3 bucket. So just use list city by, and there we go. You have a lot of files. You see the size, the naming of the files. So these are all files. I'm actually now with Snowflake looking inside the S3 bucket. So I'm looking at a file share. That's how you can see it. Then I'm going to create or replace the format. What I'm doing right here, I need to tell Snowflake how I can pull this data in. I need to check where I can see it somewhere, because they changed the layout a bit. They're constantly changing it. Maybe it's with shares. I can't find it right now, but you can also use the interface and set up like the attributes you need to import the CSV. So compression is auto. You see, it's a GC file, so it's been compressed. But Snowflake can auto decompress it and use it. You can say the field delimiter. You need to know, of course, but if this is your data, you know. The record delimiter, it's a /n. Skip header 0. So these are all the things you need to be able to set to make sure the import of the CSVs goes correctly. So if I'm going to run this one, there we go. And this is unexpected something because I selected something. There we go, successfully created. And now the only thing I did is I've told Snowflake, hey, if you want to import those files, use the CSV file format. And this is how it's been set up. And there we go. Now I can copy into trips from the city by trips with the file format CSV. So again, the table has been created, the trips table. I've created a link to the city by trips URL. I can list it, we've seen it. I've set up a way to import it. And now I can run this statement and import all the data that now resides on S3 and copy it into my new table. So run it. Maybe I should have left it on L. probably a bit more fast. Imagine now Snowflake doing all the work. I haven't had to install anything on my laptop. Everything was just done by cloud techniques, cloud technology. So the S3 is on the cloud. My data was on the cloud. My Snowflake is on the cloud. I can just load it in. While it's loading, I will go a bit to the next page. You see me put the context manually to resize it to a certain database, to a schema. But as you can imagine, you will have a whole process in place to run and to make sure that you like run it optimal. This is the proof. You can also just collect or say it as a SQL statement. So if I run this, my row will change, my warehouse will change, the database will change, the schema will change, etc. You can do everything from the SQL. And in the meantime, you've seen it loaded. So now I have again the city trips loaded. Now that I have it, I will do a select star with a limit of 2000. There we go. This is everything that's in the table of city trips. Oh, sorry, there we go. This is everything in the city trips table. And now I can run some like great SQL. As you all know, maybe like again, I love Snowflake. Yes, I do, but also I love Tableau. And we do a lot of things in Tableau. We use a lot of calculated fields, and pretty new in Tableau. You have some additional mapping calculations you can use, like mapping functions. You can create, you can draw a line. You can calculate the distance between 2 points. You can do a lot of like great stuff within Tableau. But if that's reoccurring, Tableau would always be faster if it's in the data already. And if I look at this statement, you see they're using a function called havesign, which is actually a function that calculates, based on the curve of the Earth, the difference between the starting point and the end point. And it gives it back as an average. So if I run this one, run it first. There we go. And again, this is on a database with 61 million rows in there, right? And this is what 2.4 seconds, and I have this image back. So now I see per hour 01, 02, 03, the number of trips, the average duration, but also the average distance. So already this was an analytical question I've asked straight from the data without any tool on top of it, that provided me insights on hourly use of the bikes, of the trips. And again, reminding you, this was done completely on the total data set of 61 million rows. Well, when I see this blows my mind. I've never seen this before, and this made me really happy because now I can easily use well, data and SQL statements to just get my data. Before I'm going to show you something else, I would also like to, let me see, show you this. Well, it's a bit more technical, so I'm just going to explain it, because if I run it, there's a possibility it goes wrong. To be honest, I don't totally understand it. But maybe some of you have heard of JSON. JSON is a file system. It's been used with unstructured data a lot, and it's different than like a column store that we use. This is different columns. This is what we understand, right? We look at a table. This is the same as Excel. This is easy. But within a JSON file, it's not like been done vertically, but you write it out. It's not done horizontally, sorry, but you write it out vertically. The benefit of it is that you don't have to have all the columns, and you can keep it pretty short. And if something needs to get added to the data set, you can just add it without any issues in your whole data model. So JSON nowadays is being used a lot to store data, even structured data, if I'm honest. So if you have JSON data and you're struggling with it, maybe you know, but also Tableau is capable of joining straight onto JSON. But with Snowflake, it's even becoming more powerful. The JSON, whether they, I would just do it. Let me just try to, let me drop it, this one, drop table, JSON weather data. Try to just, oh yeah, that's another thing. That's the only downside of this interface. I cannot drag and drop I need to click there and say place name is equal. There we go. Put a semicolon. So it's been dropped. I'm going to create it again. And the table is created, but now it's empty. I should have also could have truncated it. Now again, I need to create a stage. To S3. This is the same thing I did before with the CSV. Maybe get an error because it exists already. No, it was successfully created. And the same as with CSV, I can list it. So now I'm looking at that stage and I'm seeing all the weather data in JSON files available, which again, it's compressed. I can now copy into JSON weather data the JSON format. I will show you how it looks. I'll copy it. And then you see the file. It's loaded, loads fast, so you see the whole result. You can see all the files there, etc. Because it's loaded now, I can do a select star. And there, like, something happens that I didn't expect, right? Because instead of seeing a nice table as we know it, we just loaded in the JSON content into the table. So if I look at this one, this is my JSON information. So this is what a typical JSON file looks like, but I cannot use it yet. The only thing I did now is create a stage and get the whole content and get it into Snowflake. But what's really awesome, now I can create a view on top of it. I first have to drop it, so drop view, and then that's this one. Place name is equal. Here we go. The interface, I'll tell you honest, I don't really like the interface. They're working on it. I can quickly show you the preview app in a minute, but that's not something I liked. So anyway, it's been dropped. It doesn't exist anymore. Let me refresh for you and you guys can see it. No tables of view in the schema. That is horrible because I was expecting the JSON one. Well, let's see, maybe it just works. Let me try. So now I can create a JSON weather data view. So I'm not creating a new table because the JSON data is already available, but I'm just creating a view. There we go. And this view is looking at the JSON data straight away. Maybe quickly, how does it look? This is just a format to pull some things out of the JSON file. It's something you need to learn. I didn't learn it yet, so that's why I'm using this demo. But this is the way you should set it up, and then you pick a name for your column. So what it's going to do now, the part of the JSON file with the timestamp is going to be put into the table, into the view as observation type. And now what I can do is select straight from the JSON files the data. And now, so I didn't do any modeling or whatever, or any data distributions. I just created a view straight on top of the JSONs. And before I did that, I just loaded in the JSON files as an unstructured data source into a table. To me, also, I can really see the power of this and the flexibility that it can bring you. So finally, before we go to the preview app, I would like you to be aware of one more thing. This is all cool. Yeah, your name goes there. Fine. Where is it? I thought it was in there. No, I'm just going to tell you then. There's no because in the beginning I showed you undrop. If I drop a table by accident, no worries, I can undrop it and then it's back. So how that works is there is a 90-day retention within Snowflake built in that's like part of the view that you can use, and that keeps all your history, all your mutations. So for example, yesterday I changed stuff in a database and I put it into production. I changed stuff in the table, I put it into production, and then I get a call, hey, the dashboard is showing wrong numbers. So I think, that's strange, yesterday an update. So what I can do, I can go to Snowflake, I can write a query, which is pretty easy, like it's the same SQL language, but then I can add a where clause that says, show me the data from yesterday at noon. And then it will show you the data, how it was presented then, yesterday at noon. And then I can do an easy check to see what changed in the meantime, what went wrong, and maybe like troubleshoot it way earlier. And to me also, there was an eye-opener that you have 90 days that you can go back in time. If you, for example, a use case for an hourly comparison of stuff, I have near real-time data and I want to do an hourly comparison, so I want to compare the last hour with the hour before, I don't have to set up anything. I just can build that in one query and I can ask what's the situation now and what was the same number 1 hour ago. And that gives so many possibilities to do like day-over-day comparisons or week-over-week comparisons. The only downside there is, it is always limited to 90 days. You can set the limit to less if you want, but not to more. So I would love to see an implementation by Snowflake that provides a solution for an easy solution for slowly changing dimensions, because then I can look back in time, what changed over time with my attributes. And to me, the time travel, that's how it's called, was amazing. And I can quickly show you guys like time travel Snowflake. Again, Google is your friend. Understanding and using time travel. And maybe I can show you a SQL statement. That this is how you can all look at it as before. I just want to see some SQLs. This is all really relevant. There we go. This is setting the different data retention time. There we go. So select star from my table at, and then timestamp bigger than Monday. So there we go. Or offset 60 times 5. This is every time 5 minutes ago. So get historical data 5 minutes ago. Every time you run this, you get the previous 5 minutes. This is before a certain statement. You see the big number. You can ask Snowflake to give you unique statement number. And if you found it, because there's history, maybe I can quickly show you history. There we go. So where is my, there it is, query ID. So everything I did in the past has a unique query ID. And I can say, oh man, this is the query where I think it went wrong. Let's go back in time and look at that query ID, and I get exactly the data as it was when I ran, before I ran that statement, which again, I think it's awesome. So I think most beautiful things of Snowflake I've showed you, which I really like as a user. They're looking back in time, the undrop feature, because again, I do stuff by accident, that you can set the warehouse if you need more power. Of course, you need to have additional rights to do that. You don't want everybody in your company to set it to XXXL, especially not when they're not paying for it. But it's like really easy to do. I love that there's zero maintenance that goes into Snowflake. You haven't seen me worrying about indexes or looking at performance, or it's so fast and so easy to use. That I have another example, just maybe a quick one. This is my dbeaver. Again, the company I'm working for also uses Snowflake. And this, yeah, I already did it because I wanted to see if it was feasible to show you. But this is a table, and I'm taking daily snapshots on the table. And right now we have 4 billion rows in there. And wow, that's amazing. And if I were to, I think there's snapshot data in there. This is actually what I'm using right here. Is what I like. This is dbeaver. And dbeaver can connect to any sort of data source. And that makes it really easy to also connect to Snowflake. Different instances. You see, I have the Biztory one there, the one from my client, the things I made one. It's really easy to like switch between, and you can have even active connections with both of them. But if I were to select, and then I need to check what it's called. I think it's in the BOIA. So data, I think it's snapshot date, but then written wrongly. Yes. So native, that's maybe a quick tip already. Snowflake is all capitals. So if I don't use double quotes, everything will be capitalized. And it will maybe take some time because that's also different than most other ones. So created from this one. Just to show you a real life example with a customer. Select count star, and then group by 1, order by 1, descending. I think it's like this. So dbeaver does have I'm just going to run it like this. dbeaver does have a limitation. Yes, waited too long. Let's refresh. There we go. Try it again. dbeaver does have a limitation, so I don't have to set like I told you before, that the use warehouse, there's no active warehouse selected. So if I see this, I quickly go back to the Snowflake. Let's go back to the worksheets and, oh wait, this is not the dynamic one. Use warehouse. That's why you never should go out of the demo. Use warehouse, EMEA, DA. I think it's this one, not sure. Here we go. No, it doesn't exist. So I don't know this one. But just what I wanted to show you is a real life example on how much data you can achieve. We'll try to. Is this correct? It's in there. No. No, sorry, I cannot show you this one on how fast it is. But that's okay. I will go back finally, before we end this short introduction, to the preview app. So this is where it gets a bit fluffy, maybe, because I normally like, to me, Snowflake was a data warehouse where I could put data and I could easily retrieve it. And Tableau was my visual analytical tool, which was awesome for visual data exploration. But a lot of those tools like now start to overlap. The same with Snowflake. So this is more in beta, but they created a different interface to query the data. Obviously, I need to log on again because I'm switching sort of locations. Enable worksheets and dashboards. And now they've created an app which you can use to, yeah, sure, I know, import, which you can use to even run dashboards. I haven't played around with this a lot, but it shows you that also, yeah, well, Snowflake is trying to even give you more analytical power. So if I go to the 90-minute lab and I would run, let me try to find this one. There we go. There we go. Run it. It opens the results. Runs for a couple of minutes, of course. I think it was around 10. There we go. Still getting a bit some other stuff. Yeah, this is like the metadata on what you did. This is the data that we've seen. But look, I can easily convert it into a chart. Too many data points generated, limited to 10K. There we go. This is the chart over time. So I haven't done anything. It gives you sort of a limited way to add something. But I think this can really help going through your data and trying to find an issue. I don't think this, like, you cannot compare this one to Tableau, obviously, but it can help you to find maybe patterns that you were not expecting, or maybe validate data more easily. So straight from the select statement, you can generate a chart and you can use it to get some additional insights. Yeah, so maybe as a conclusion, I hope you still believe, like, I'm not a technical guy, because I truly don't see myself as a technical guy. I know some SQL, but to me, Snowflake just delivered what it needed to deliver. The interface is pretty straightforward, so you can do a lot of stuff with the interface, but you can also use the the SQL statements to do everything. I'm not sure. Are there any questions left? Maybe you can raise your hand or ask it in the Q&A.